This video is a quick look at the key points for peritoneal and hemodialysis. Dialysis is what we use to clean our blood when our kidneys do not function well. We call this renal insufficiency. Renal again means kidney, and insufficiency just means it's not sufficient. It doesn't do the job. So to treat renal insufficiency, the long-term solution is a kidney transplant. But kidney transplants are sometimes in short supply. So in the meantime, we do dialysis. There are two forms of dialysis. They're both pretty common. One is called peritoneal and uses this bag that surrounds your digestive organs called the peritoneum. And that bag is waterproof. This is a place where we can introduce a solution called dialysate. We would call this stuff dialysate or dialysis solution. And we'll talk about what's in that dialysate in a minute. You would do this by making a port in the stomach, and that port is this port. Give it some time to heal, and then each day you can plug in a new container of dialysate, wait a little while, and then drain out the used dialysate at the end. We've got another form of dialysis called hemodialysis, where blood is taken out of the arm. It is processed, pumped and processed in an apparatus called a dialyzer, but it works in very much the same way. We have a solution here called dialysate. It's the same stuff, and that dialysate, instead of being inside your body, is in a tube. The blood is then returned to the body through the arm. In this case, you'd have to have two ports in your arm, two fistulas, made ahead of time and healed up, just like you'd have to have this one healed up in your abdomen. The benefit to doing peritoneal dialysis is that you can do it at home. Many people can do it at home. For hemodialysis, you have to go in for treatment, and since it's your kidneys, you have to go in quite often. Sometimes daily, sometimes every couple of days, depending on how poorly your kidneys are functioning. Both of these work on the principle of diffusion. Diffusion is always talking about the motion of solute, so things dissolved in a solvent, from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. So high concentration, lots of dissolved particles. Those particles are going to be bumping into each other, they're going to be jiggling, they're going to be vibrating, and as they move around, they're going to tend to go towards areas where there's less of themselves to bump into. We call this a concentration gradient. The gradient is like a color gradient going from more intense to less intense, so higher concentration to low. In diffusion, we always say that our solute moves from high concentration to low concentration. Of course, the movements themselves are just random. They go this way and they go that way. But in general, more of them will travel from the high concentration area to the low. Once we have equal concentration on each side, then diffusion is, well, not stopped, but just not helpful. It is an equal rate going from one side to the other, so the counts on both sides, or the concentrations on both sides, stay the same. In dialysis, we use this principle of diffusion, which is what we could do using only the structure in your kidney called the glomerulus, so without any of the tubular parts of your nephron. So just the glomerulus, which is less good, but in dialysis, we do diffusion, where we keep adding, well, not continuously, but for a while, new dialysate, which means that our concentration gradient can be maintained. We don't get to this point where we have equal on the left and the right, because we keep replacing this with fresh, so that our waste products can be put in the waste. They can be disposed of. Diffusion always goes from high concentration to low. We call that down the concentration gradient. This is the phrase we would use. And when there is a bigger difference, and in particular a bigger difference in concentrations, then the rate of diffusion will be faster. Both types of dialysis just do diffusion and nothing more. In dialysis, the key is this thing called dialysate solution and a membrane called the dialysis membrane, or a semi-permeable membrane. And this membrane works a lot like your glomerulus. Big things cannot get through, but little things can. If we just put pure water into our dialysate solution, we would still keep our red blood cells, our white blood cells, our platelets, big stuff. But we would lose not only waste, which in this diagram are little yellow X's, but also we would lose things like sugar, amino acids, small proteins, ions like sodium, chloride, potassium. So we don't want to lose all the good stuff. We only want to lose the waste. So the key is setting up the dialysate solution so that it is like a healthy person's plasma. That means that as far as these blue check marks go, the useful things go, we want to make sure our dialysate solution that we keep introducing has a normal, healthy level of water, sodium, chloride, potassium, glucose, amino acids, all the stuff that might be in your plasma. But we want the concentration of waste, like urea or uric acid, to be 0. Why do we want it to be 0? Because of this point right here. The bigger difference in concentration rate results in a faster diffusion, a faster removal of those waste products. So whether it is in a dialyzer outside of your body, or whether it's happening in your peritoneum, the same thing is happening. There are pores that are small enough that red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets can't get through, but that other stuff can, like dissolved ions, sugar, amino acids. The dialysate needs to have a useful concentration, a normal concentration of all the good stuff, the stuff you want to have in your blood, so that the diffusion of those good things into or out of your blood is at a constant rate and you're not depleted. This has an added benefit of if you happen to be low on sodium that day or happen to be low on glucose, your dialysis solution, your dialysate, is probably going to compensate for that automatically, just like your kidneys would. Only your kidneys don't have to have a fresh supply of all of the good stuff in your blood being delivered to your home or your hospital every day. Dialysis is a temporary solution. It can go on for years, but it is not a true replacement for a kidney. The only true solution to kidney or renal insufficiency so far is kidney transplant. In dialysis, the key idea there is it's just diffusion, it's just like you have a glomerulus only. And in order to make that work, the dialysate solution needs to be low in waste and normal in everything else. Normal levels of sugar, amino acids, proteins, all that good stuff.